Google is reportedly negotiating with Samsung to push Google Assistant over Bixby. R.I.P. Bixby? Yes, probably. I mean, that was going to happen, it seemed anyways. Bixby was knocking on that door for a little while. And certainly in the tech community.
Well, they kept trying.
Tell you what.
It's a fighter.
I'll tell you what. Samsung really want to hang on to it. I mean, we're in this weird space where in the Android world, these manufacturers want to find a way to differentiate their product. Many turn towards software as a means, as an attempt to have their device appear as being something different. And it really hasn't worked all that much. We talked about with OnePlus on a recent Nord product, they got rid of their own messaging app. And what other client? Another stock Google application that they just made out the gate where they used to do their own version of it. They just gave it up. They said, man, this is what people want. And there are just these areas where Google does such a good job that it seems so bizarre to attempt to compete with them in that space. And that's kind of the way Bixby was received. Bixby had some functionality that Assistant didn't, because it could reach deeper into the device hardware than what Assistant could. But ultimately, end of the day, Will, I'm using Assistant. I'll tell you what.
Have you ever used Bixby?
Tiny Bixby. When it was first came out, I was at the event and I was experimenting with it. But even Assistant, I have a hot-cold relationship even with Assistant. I'll go through phases where I'm very Assistant. I'll just be using it all the time and for everything. And then for some reason, I'll ease off of it here and there. But Assistant in the car, unbelievable.
Yes.
Assistant in the car when you can't be touching things and just to quickly navigate somewhere. Or even often, sometimes my kids will ask me a question. Just a beautiful, like general knowledge type of question. Almost like a trivia question. Yeah. And just to hit the Assistant, the speed. They can't even type it. You can't even Google it that. Mm-hmm. And those are those moments where speed is the real killer aspect of voice interaction. Much like you and I right here.
Yep.
You see, if we slow this thing down, it's painful. Mm-hmm. If we just go silent for a minute, or all of a sudden I say something and then there's a lag time and then you say something, it doesn't work.
No.
The speed is the killer feature, and Google knows that. They've been working on it with search forever. That killer aspect, it almost creates a whole different product once the speed is there. You interpret it differently. And that's the area where Siri is lagging also. And I've seen all the demonstrations and comparisons. And of course, we talked about it on this show as well. And Siri has gotten better through a number of generations here, but it's still slow compared to Google Assistant. And it's a huge drawback when it comes to using it. Everyone knows the person in their life that goes, hey, Siri, and they're really excited about it. And then you're sitting around waiting and you look at each other and it's this totally awkward moment of why did you do Siri? You should have just typed it because now we're all waiting. And I feel strange right now.
It's like an awkward pause.
So anyways, Google is negotiating with Samsung saying the time is now. Let's bury Bixby. Samsung, obviously an enormous footprint in the smartphone game and a huge opportunity for Google to get its services rolled out to a much bigger audience. Not to say, you could use Assistant on Samsung devices, but whatever is coming out of the box is the thing that people end up using, and it's a huge potential missed opportunity for Google unless they can convince Samsung that this is what should happen out of the box, and maybe even one step further, that Samsung should market it as an advantage, a partnership. The only place, the best place to use Google services is on a Samsung device, and not a Pixel device, and not a OnePlus device, and wherever else. So I'm always rooting for the more native Google experiences. I find them to be the more seamless approach, and I would love to see this take place. So if Samsung is in any way listening to me, which they're not, but they might be. And if this message gets to Samsung, I say sign the deal, take the money from Google, put the money into R&D on the next display tech or camera tech, and let's just all agree that Assistant is the way to go. at least on Android.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, I would, even if I was on iOS, I would love the option to have Assistant as a separate download. I mean, that's obviously a different story, but anyways, Samsung, for the record, just last thing on this, for the record, they have been open-minded about this type of criticism in the past. You remember they had the TouchWiz stuff going on. People were like, I don't know, maybe you got to tweak that one a little bit, get a little closer to something. And then they came with One UI, and it was an improvement.
Yeah.
And so I think they're listening. Samsung, if you're listening, Google Assistant, let's do it. Let's bury Bixby. It's okay. It's fine. Everybody's got to bury something. Everybody has a project. They do. Doesn't work out as expected. You tried. It's all good.
Yeah, you just got to fail fast, right?
That's the startup thing.
Yeah.
Don't get too committed to it. Yeah, read the feedback for sure.